nadešel čas, abych pozval na podium našeho velmi milého hosta. Let me to invite onto the stage Mr. Henry Redhead from the Summerhill School.
It's funny because I actually am a professional sound engineer, and so anytime someone hands me a microphone, I always go 1, 2, 1, 2. So can you all hear me okay? Cool, so how many people, please raise your hand if you've heard about Summerhill? Whoa, oh my gosh. Okay, thank you so much. You know, well, I said it means a real lot to me, but it means a real lot to Summerhill. We're a very small school. We don't have very many pupils. I personally find it really amazing when I get invited to these conferences and I meet all you people, and it's so lovely also to be at the conference where there are so many people talking about such wonderful things to do with the future direction of education. We are at a time when things need to change, and it's really nice to have a whole room full of people that may be thinking in roughly the same direction. So thank you. Now, I went to Summerhill myself as a pupil. So my grandfather is A.S. Neal. My mother, Zoe Redhead, presently runs Summerhill School. I was a pupil there, and what this means is I'm totally creative, and I'm also very, very spontaneous. So this is why I'm going to read my speech, because otherwise Evelyn will never come on the stage and you will never go home. I've just realised I've got lots of things in my hand, so we'll just see how this goes anyway. Okay. My grandfather wrote, "All crimes, all hatred, all wars can be reduced to unhappiness." He believed that a child's emotional and social development was far more important than academic achievement. A.S. Neal founded Summerhill School in 1921 in order to prove his child-rearing and educational philosophy. Summerhill School is the oldest children's democracy in the world. It is a self-governing, democratic community in which the adults and children have equal rights. This is the Summerhill policy statement. 1. To provide choices and opportunities that allow children to develop at their own pace and to follow their own interests. Summerhill does not aim to produce specific types of young people with specific assessed skills or knowledge, but aims to provide an environment in which children can define who they are and what they want to be. 2. To allow children to be free from compulsory or imposed assessment, allowing them to develop their own goals and sense of achievement. Children should be free from the pressure to conform to artificial standards of success based on predominant theories of child learning and academic achievement. 3. To allow children to be completely free to play as much as they like. Creative and imaginative play is an essential part of childhood and development. Spontaneous, natural play should not be undermined or redirected by adults into a learning experience for children. Play belongs to the child. 4. to allow children to experience the full range of feelings free from the judgment and intervention of an adult. Freedom to make decisions always involves risk and requires the possibility of negative outcomes. Apparently negative consequences such as boredom, stress, anger, disappointment and failure are a necessary part of individual development. And finally, to allow children to live in a community that supports them and that they are responsible for, in which they have the freedom to be themselves and have the power to change community life through the democratic process. All individuals create their own set of values based on the community within which they live. Summerhill is a community which takes responsibility for itself. Problems are discussed and resolved through openness, democracy and social action. All members of the community, adults and children, irrespective of age, are equal in terms of this process. At Summerhill, children are free to do as they choose, so long as they don't infringe on other people's freedom. This is one of the foundation stones of the Summerhill philosophy. This means you can dye your hair bright blue, you can wear your clothes inside out, play all day, or even spend the whole day studying maths. These things are your own individual choice. They do not interfere with anybody else, apart from the maths teacher, obviously. But, for example, you cannot play your drum kit all night, or pee on the dining room floor, or ride someone else's bicycle without permission, because these things affect other people. The Summerhill community consists of 74 pupils, including 9 day kids. These range from 6 to 16 years old. We have 14 staff, and we also have 9 day teachers that come in to teach specialty subjects like calligraphy, Chinese, violin, etc. The Summerhill community is governed by all of us at 2 weekly meetings, where everything affecting our daily lives is discussed and decided. In these meetings, everybody has an equal vote and the right to be heard. The school meeting discusses everyday issues and changes or makes new laws. There is also a part of the meeting for people to bring cases against one another. So, if I were to use your bicycle without asking, you could bring me up in the meeting, and I would probably get the standard fine of about 50p. If you threw litter on the floor outside, then I would bring you up in the meeting too. The standard fine for this is a 15-minute work fine. Being fined is not considered to be a punishment. It's just a way for the community to show you disapproval for certain actions, to deter you from doing it again. The fines used in our community are as diverse as the issues that are raised, and we do not just rely upon monetary fines. Sometimes, issues raised in Summerhill meetings can seem somewhat petty to outsiders. Things like somebody calling you names, riding your bicycle without permission, or refusing to get out of your room when asked. In the school meeting, we discuss and take these issues very seriously. Because firstly, to children, these issues are serious. And secondly, it is very important for a child to learn about their own rights in order to understand other people's rights. Summerhill is known as a free school, but actually we have around 250 laws. That's not much freedom. These laws govern our lives. Laws are dropped and created all the time by members of all ages. Some have a short lifespan, some last for years. Being able to change our community in this way gives the kids a sense of ownership. The Summerhill community and meetings are not looked at as an educational experience. We just run and live our lives together in this manner, and by doing so, learn essential life skills. We learn respect, tolerance, compromise, communication, negotiation, and assuming the responsibility for yourself and others. And the very best part about it is you learn these all-important skills without even thinking about it. They just become part of everyday life. I'm going to drink some water. I hope you don't mind. I'm hoping nobody's put any vodka or anything in there. Okay. A very important aspect of the Summerhill meeting, the community of meetings, is that children feel safe and in control of their lives. This is especially important when considering bullying. Around the world today, there is an increasing problem of physical, mental, and cyberbullying. When cases of bullying come up in the meetings, they tend to be what we would call cases of petty harassment, name-calling, etc. These types of cases are dealt with very quickly and efficiently. Typically, assessment is used purely for the benefit of the student and teacher to gauge how the student is progressing. We'll just sit and watch a few pictures here. I've gone a bit too quick. Slow as well. Sorry. Here we go. No. So what happens to Summerhill pupils when they leave having had non-compulsory lessons? Most children, when they leave Summerhill, they go on to appropriate qualifications at colleges of higher education. Some go on to university and some do not. Sometimes adults new to our school find it difficult to accept that children can make decisions about their own lives, which us teachers or even parents may not agree with. It can be very hard to watch a child who is obviously, for example, talented in music, turn away from that and spend their time developing other skills instead. Each person has to decide what interests them and what career path to choose. All the academic learning in the world will not enable us as human beings to relate to our loved ones, rear a happy family, or be a contented person if our emotional needs have not been fulfilled. Schools need to be focusing on children's emotional development because first, we need to learn to function as human beings. Unfortunately, our present schooling systems do not allow for this. We are so intent upon cramming information into children's heads that we have forgotten the most important aspects, the emotions. If we are to live peacefully and happily with our fellow humans, then first we must learn the most valuable skills, the life skills of communication, compassion, respect, responsibility, and equality. Then we can worry. Oh, it's always fun when that one. That always gets a laugh. That always gets a laugh. Then we can worry about whether we should become politicians or lawyers or writers or artists. Learning is a natural part of our lives. Left to ourselves, some among us will develop into brain surgeons or mathematicians while some of us will prefer to grow fruit or build furniture. We all have different aspirations and needs, which must be reflected in our educational systems. The way to learn about ourselves is through freedom to make our own choices and our own mistakes. Children are capable of making decisions and can learn invaluable lessons from it. They need time to play and be happy in an environment which offers them this freedom. At Summerhill, we believe strongly that happiness and emotional well-being must come first. Then we are free to follow our chosen paths in life. Summerhill has proven over the last 94 years that children can be trusted to make decisions about their own lives. And when given that freedom, will become well-balanced, happy individuals that are self-confident, enthusiastic, and maintain a lifelong love of learning. That's the teddy bear again, you see? You see? My grandfather wrote, "I would rather Summerhill produce a happy street sweeper than a neurotic prime minister." And Summerhill today echoes that sentiment. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So the question is, and it's well proved, and the question is why the system hasn't adopted the main principles of Summerhill and made them extended in public schools. Teď přišel čas na vaše otázky, já myslím, že tady bude zájem asi veliký. Dáme 3. Takže buď to pokládejte v češtině, já se budu snažit mu přeložit, or you can put your questions forward directly in English. Tam vidím tu ruku.
Hi, I'm Olga. Often when I speak with some people about your concept, as I know the things about what you said, they say, yes, that's nice, but it's not for every kid, you know. So do you have some, I suppose you have some experience with kids which have problem with your system, or do not? This is my question.
I will say not many. There has been circumstances where a child has come to Summerhill, but many of the reasons why they may leave, it's normally lots of other reasons rather than the fact that the child doesn't get on there. It might be to do with the parents not quite supporting the idea. It might be to do with financial reasons. Unfortunately, we are a private school. We have to charge money for people to come. We're a very small business and we need to survive. There has been a few cases, but I will say very few cases, where a child has come to Summerhill and they have spent lots of their time, they've done all the right things, they've had lots of fun, they've run around as children and lived out their fantasies and killed dragons and fought orcs and all the good stuff in life. And then when it comes to the academic side, maybe they have an ambition to become a doctor, but they don't quite, they want to have that extra pressure, maybe. And so then maybe they would then go to a state school to have that. But I have to say that over the 35 years that I've been involved with Summerhill, that's only happened once. Generally, the fact of taking responsibility for your own learning and self-motivation and viewing your own goals and your own expectations and things like this, it creates a very healthy learner. And that's so in very rare situations, but there is a few. Yeah. I can't say we're 100% perfect.
Tady nahoře. Já mám dotaz. Z knihy Summerhill I z dokumentu mi vzešlo, že rodiče nehrajou skoro žádnou roli v tomto procesu. Tak by mě, nebo já jsem si kladla otázku, jaký je poté vztah dětí a rodičů, když vlastně ti rodiče s něma moc nejsou.
Well, I mean, separation is always a difficult thing. But at the same time, we see at Summerhill it is also a very healthy thing. It can be very good as well for a child to be on their own, away from their parents. And I know that's quite a difficult thing to say. I know there's lots of parents who'll be sitting in here going, what? But actually, it works very well. When you're talking about the individual development of a human being, especially with children, there's a certain amount of self-confidence that is gained when they come away and they're put in an environment that's very loving and very caring and very supportive, but a bit different as well. We don't see that there's any, we don't want to say anything about the fact that the relationship between parents and children is not good. That's definitely not the case. It's the most powerful bond in the world. We all know that, I'm sure. But it can be very easy as a parent to put a lot of your own anxieties and your own emotional things into your children. And sometimes that's fine and good as well, but the way that the Summerhill system works, it's sometimes quite nice for a child to come away because it's about the individual development. It's about them as a child, who they are. And when they're on their own in an environment with lots of other children and teachers, then it's a wonderful situation for them to have that. Most of the time, we find that actually the bond between the parent and a child becomes much stronger. And the reason for that is that it takes away pressures and expectations that a parent might have on a child, and creates a very natural relationship between the child and the parent. Because when, especially in parenting, I don't want to say the best situation, but really it's really important that you both respect each other as individuals still, and it's quite when a lot of the anxieties are removed from a parent and the child situation, it creates a very lovely balance. So when the children go back in the holidays and they go and spend time with their family, I can't say 100% of parents would say that the benefits are unbelievable, but most do. I mean, it creates such a lovely relationship.
Poslední otázka.
Máte nějaká pravidla ohledně používání počítačů, smartphonů, internetu?
So, children are allowed to bring devices, tablets, iPhones, computers. We don't have a negative look on this sort of environment. We do have lots of rules, lots and lots of laws to do with screening and when you're allowed to screen and when you're not allowed to screen. So an example of that is that the community decided that between 8 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you're not allowed to screen. What screening means is that you're not allowed to play games or go onto social media. But you're allowed to use the screens for educational purposes. So if you're learning a song, and you want to find some lyrics, or if you're studying something, you're allowed to use the screens. At Summerhill, it relates to lots of different aspects about us, but at Summerhill, it's really important the emotional connection we find with all of these things. So, for example, if there might be people who would get addicted to gaming or something like that, we don't try to protect children from experiencing these things. These things are an important part of emotional development and your own development of who you are. It's important to experience and learn about the temptations, for example, and how to avoid them. It's been something quite regularly at Summerhill. You'll have children who will start to get really annoyed, and they'll be like, they'll come and sit next to me, and they'll be like, God, I can't stop playing that game. That game is so good, but I don't want to play it anymore. I want to study, or I want to do photography, or I want to do something else, but that game is so much fun, I just have to keep playing it. And this kind of battle within themselves is a very healthy thing. You know, that same child, the next term, he left all his computers and his iPhone and his devices all at home. And he brought his camera, and he was taking pictures everywhere, and he was really enjoying other things. The relationship we have with all of these things, it's important that we make our own relationship, and we deal with our own problems. We're having guidance from other people of, you should do this, or you shouldn't do this, and this is the reasons. The best way to learn is by doing it yourself and discovering these things yourself. It's not always a happy situation at Summerhill. It's understanding who you are, I guess.
Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to me to announce that Henry will accompany us on the after party this evening, so you can discuss all night through. Yeah. Okay, thanks.